Today I want to talk about lighting spaces as opposed to faces. It's the importance of learning to light the space as opposed to just the face. I had to shoot a short film the other day and I didn't have as much prep time as I'd like to have, but sometimes in the indie film world you're moving fast and you don't always have the time that you would hope for. The tools I used for lighting were the Nanlite Pavo tubes, the Nanlite Pavo Slim 120C, the Aperture MCs, and an Aperture 200X. For camera, we had the almighty Alexa 35 with Blazar Remus 35mm anamorphic lenses. When lighting spaces rather than faces, the focus is on creating a mood, defining the environment, and enhancing the scene's overall visual composition. Here are a few key principles I use when lighting a space. First thing I do is evaluate. I see what the space is giving me, what lights are in the space. Are they fluorescent? Are there windows? Is the sun coming in? What is actually in the space and what do the lights do in the space? Can I use them? Can I hide them? Can I replace them? Does the sun come in through the window or ceiling or door? At the end of the evaluation, I need to have an idea of what I'm doing with the lights. For this last short film I shot, I hadn't seen the space for this kitchen, but I was hoping there were a few bulbs in the oven area running at around 2700K to 3200K, but there weren't. So I made the decision to turn off all the lights and start from scratch and place the lights where I wanted them to go. So evaluation first. Second, I establish. I set the lights in a way that they will give me a light and shadow contrast. That's what I'm trying to do here, is build contrast. Whether it's a bright lit scene or a dark, moody scene, I want there to be some contrast. I want to establish the light and shadow contrast, so I place lights strategically to build that into the scene. This is why it's important for me to see the blocking before I place the lights. I have to see where the action's happening, where the dialogue is taking place. Then I have a good idea of where things need to go. Here's an overview of the diagram of where the gaffer and I chose to place the lights for this scene. Also, sometimes a space gives you great texture. This kitchen had some nice shiny surfaces and I wanted to accentuate those textures by bouncing light off of them and reflecting off the surfaces. Thirdly, create emotion. Think of how you can use lights as tools to paint. You can throw different colors and temperatures to create. You can create with complementary colors. Those are colors that sit opposite on the color wheel. You can create with analogous colors. Those are colors that sit next to each other on the color wheel. I'm of the opinion that you use 2 colors or less to achieve what you're looking for. Here I went with green and gold, which is a bit of a classic look. I wanted this kitchen to feel grungy, lived in. I wanted those fluorescents to really feel fluorescent and those warm colors to really pop. To achieve this, I used shot deck and references from films like Fallen Angels and Monkey Man because those inhabit fluorescent lit worlds, and as I watched them and looked at references, it gave me the feeling of a place that had been lived in and worked in and people had poured sweat into. So when you think through the placement and the colors and the light and shadows, think of the emotion this setting will create. Fourthly, ensure. At the end of the day, I want to make the lighting look like it's motivated. Ensure that the lighting feels motivated by real-world sources. Even though I'm using all LEDs in this scene, Nanlite, Aperture, it's okay to let those play in the frame. They look like fluorescent tube lights. They look like square LEDs, and I don't do this all the time. I don't have my LEDs living in the frame, but most importantly is I just want every source to feel motivated, whether that's coming from a lamp or a practical or a window. The light should always feel motivated and make sense for what the scene is. They should appear as though they could naturally exist within the scene. So that's it for this video. I hope these 4 practical tips were helpful. And if you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the chat below. Would love to chat with you. Would love to hear about your passion for filmmaking and what tips you have for lighting spaces as opposed to just faces. Have a wonderful day. See you soon.